Hello and welcome to day 4, the final day of Ticks Week. This week so far we've looked at Plus Simple, we've looked at ABCX, we've looked at Plus Pro, and each day with each framework I've gone through a placepot sequence to kind of illustrate each of those frameworks. So today is about bringing it all together. Which framework is right for which situation, for which person, for which amount of time, energy, interest. And I'm also going to throw in a few hints and tips for things that I do to try to give myself the best chance to win when I'm betting placepot and jackpot. But before all that, let's see how we got on yesterday with the Plus Pro placepot.
Okay, so here we are. On the computer again, and I've got my bets from yesterday here. Now, I did actually place some other bets yesterday after the video, so you can see these ones at the bottom here have all got the timestamp of 11:06, and that was the group of bets that we put that I put on whilst on the video. And then I did another set at Clonmel, and I did some messing around stuff at Ludlow and Taunton because I love a bit of action on the placepot. Okay, these were the races that this was the set of tickets that I got from the video. So you can see that there were 11 tickets there, and if I just go back here, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's the 11:06 one, and then the 12th one is 12:47. So I did that just before they went off. And in actual fact, you can see that I used number 6 in the first race there because if we look at the results, you will see that number 6 came in from the video. He was 5-1 in the morning. He was 7-2. When I was recording, and he actually came into shorter than 2-1 and then just drifted out ever so slightly. The one horse that we used in isolation on the first race finished second, odds on favourite. So nothing of any note happened there from a placepot perspective. The third favourite was third. So pretty much everyone went through there. The second race was that claiming race, and if you remember, I hated it. So I used basically the entire field, bar 2 horses. And the second favourite actually won the race, Fenway Park. But the second and third horses were quite big outsiders in the race. And that was a feature of the card, actually. So if we go on to the third race, again, the favourite won the race. But the second and third favourites were big outsiders with very little money on them. In the fourth race, the same again. The even money favourite won the race, and the second and third were big outsiders. The non-runner was one of the ones that I'd had on the where are we? On the B tickets here. Is this the one? Yeah, so we had 5, 3 and 8, and then 2 and 10. So 2 and 10 were... 10 was King Bob there. He was the one that I was against because of the ground, and I guess he was withdrawn because of the ground. Anyway, his stake went on to Hearty Cup, so that was another line that went through the favourite. I quite like this Cry Before Dawn as an interesting... first time in a handicap horse. You can see that he managed to get third at 25-1, so that was the each way bet landed. Just had a small each way bet, got £60 back for a £20 stake, so that was fine. This Falcon Park was, if you remember, was well backed. He was a line of blue horse in the morning. I didn't really like his chance, but I respected the market. Likewise, Robin Davida Star here was a line of blue horse in the morning, and I kind of, those horses, the market needs to be our mistress somewhat. We don't need to be wedded to it, but we definitely need to take note of interesting horses. It was easier to make a case for Robin de Vida Star, who had some heavy ground form and some track form. Falcon Park, less so, but both of them hit the frame, and they were good prices to do so, and had very little money running through them. So then we went on to leg 5. Same again, favourite won again, and the two that backed it up were big outsiders. This Free Flowing, you could have made kind of a very small, tenuous case for that one. This was a Charles Burns horse, ran quite well. This was a Charles Burns horse, ran quite well. This was a Charles Burns horse, ran quite well. If you back them with 4 places, you'd have got 33, 12 and 18 for the place treble. Not for me, I have to say, but maybe somebody did. And then in the last leg, a couple of non-runners took it down to 15 runners, so only 3 places rather than 4. One of the non-runners was Milan Away, which was the second favourite in the early betting. So on our tickets, we had 14. Let's just sort this so you can see it more clearly. So we had this favourite on the bigger staked tickets, and then we had 7 and 9 on the other tickets. Now, because 9 was a non-runner, that meant that went on to the favourite, which was 14. So we basically had 14 on all of the tickets and 7 on these tickets as well. 7 missed the frame, 14 won the race, carrying all our 9 non-runner tickets in, and also obviously that one itself. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 placed favourites, 4 winning favourites, and 2 winning second favourites, and it paid. I can't remember what it paid. Let's have a look. I think it paid about 40 quid. Where am I going to get this? Here. Let's see. Results from yesterday. Multi-race, placepot, Clonmel. Paid £38.80, and then with a little bit of a bonus from playing ticks of at least 5%, so you'd have got another £1.90 there. So it would have taken you over £40 for what was essentially a really easy 6 to go through. And as you can see, I had staked £29.92. You can see that there. And this is the profit and loss, so it's not the return. The return excludes the cost. So the actual profit was just over £50 on that bet yesterday. So it returned 80 odd, covered the £30 stake, and left 50 quid on the table. So that was good. That was a good day. Obviously it helps when I'm doing kind of showcase videos when they win. And so yeah, very happy with that. Very happy to share that. But mainly what I'm trying to do is to illustrate the value of ticks in helping you to put together tickets that kind of better match your opinions, rather than having to use them use your opinions in very blocky format where you've got a 10-1 and a 2-1 and they're both on the ticket for the same amount of money. That doesn't make any sense. So this is a much more considered way of doing it. Right, just one quick point before I move on. A few people have very generously asked if I will be providing placepot picks ongoing. I will not, and there are 2 reasons for that, or at least 2 reasons. One of them is time. I simply don't have enough time to talk through this every day or to write it up. Often I barely have enough time to put a bet on myself. So there's that. The second reason, which is probably even more important, is it's a pool bet. So if we're all on the same horses, we're cannibalizing the dividend. We're all eating each other's lunch, basically, and that makes no sense. Now, I do want to find a way on GG's to sort of point towards some horses and away from others from a placepot perspective, and I haven't figured out exactly how that will be yet. But I think I want to have a daily feature that you can reference, and it will kind of suggest that horse A is of interest in spite of its price and form profile, whereas horse B might be one to be a little bit wary of, even though it's a short price and its recent form figures suggest it should be in the frame. Remember, we're trying to win twice with the placepot and the jackpot. We're trying to get the horses in the frame or to win, but we're also trying to find the ones that are less obvious to the general public. We're playing directly against the general public, and we need to beat them. And that kind of speaks to my first point, which is that if you're betting the same horses as me and I'm betting the same horses as you, when we have a winning ticket, we're all going to squeeze each other's dividend. And we don't want to be squeezing each other's dividends, as it were. So that's that. So no, I won't be sharing. I'm sure I will from time to time, but generally speaking, you do you and me do me. But I do obviously think Tix is a huge leg up in terms of the way, certainly the way I play, and I hope the way you play as well. And in the rest of this video, I'm going to talk about when to use each, or when I use each of the three frameworks, and then a few hints and tips to think about while you're betting, and once a bet is in play, how you can kind of manage the situation to look after your bankroll. Because in the end, you know, we're going to have winning days and losing days, and we're going to have days where we get the place pot, but it doesn't return all of our stake. And there are a lot of sideways days. You know, there are a lot of days where you're just kind of treading water, waiting for something fun and interesting to happen. And so we need to look after our bankroll to keep us in the game for those interesting days while we're, you know, largely treading water or making small headway or small regression. Okay, enough on that. Let's look at when to use each framework. So the sequence for me in terms of when I use each one would be, let's just pull up a pool here. We've got Newbury today. I'm recording this quite early, so there aren't any price movements. We don't start tracking our price movements until after 9 o'clock. So we miss some of the early nonsense, which are often sort of fake moves, fake news. This is the pro version. So the simple version is the simplest of the three frameworks. It is literally choose your horses, tick the boxes, go through the sequence, and all the maths is done for you. You'll end up with a bunch of tickets, which are the optimized, most likely combinations of your opinions. Your opinions will be weighted by the market odds. Very simple. Pick your horses and press the place bets button when you've got them all picked. Now, I do use this approach when I don't have a strong opinion, when I want a bit of action, or if I'm very, very tight on time. And again, if I'm tight on time, that normally means I want a bit of action. I will quickly whiz through the GG's race cards and fill out the selections on the simple version. Trust the market to be largely right, give or take, and devil take the hindmost. I'll get what I'm given. I'll get what I deserve for not putting enough time in it. But even if you want to put time into the selection process, but not into the apportionment, if that's a word, of your stake. If you just want to trust the market or the software to do the staking for you, and you want to pick your horses out, whether it takes 2 minutes or 2 hours, then this is the one for you. Tix Simple. And as with all of Tix, every bet that goes through here gets 5% on any paybacks. So it's always better to use Tix than it is to use actually any other site. I don't know of anywhere else where you can get that rate, that kind of kickback. So yeah, that's Tix Simple. I do use it when I'm tight for time. It's definitely the one to use if you don't want to muck about with curating your opinions and weighting your stakes through different horses. Very simple. Pick the horses, away you go. ABCX is probably the middle one of the three in terms of complexity. Here you've got strong opinions on A, or if you don't have any strong opinions, you need to put horses on A, because obviously you've got to have selections in every race. You're going to have your warm opinions on B, so if it's a competitive race like this might be, then you might want to take a couple of A's near the top of the market, or maybe one slightly further down that you think has got a really good chance, and then back them up with a few B's. And if you're playing jackpot, you might use C's as well, and you would go through the card in that way. You don't need to use A, B's and C's. You can use just A's all the way, and maybe have one leg where you put B's or C's. Sometimes when I'm playing the jackpot, I will have all A's, and I'll take a few C's on each ticket. So if I think it looks a bit top of the market, if it looks like most of the favourites have a winning chance, I'll put the favourites, maybe with a few second favourites, on the A, in the A section, and then I'll put a few horses in C, in all the legs there as well, and I'll end up with 7 tickets. In fact, let me just do this so that you can see what I mean. Let's say it really doesn't matter, so I'll just do it like this. Let's say this was a strong favourite, and there were sort of 3 interesting ones against it. This was a tighter race, and this one. Let's do that. All I'm trying to do here is illustrate a point. So you can see that if I choose A's and C's in all races, I'm going to have 7 tickets, as you can see down at the bottom. I've got my all A's ticket, and then I've got 5 A's with 1 C 6 times. So for each race, I've got the C's from, in this case, leg 1. 3 and 4 were on my C ticket here, and then all of these A's, and then on the next ticket I'll have A, C, A, and then on the next ticket I'll have A, C, A, next ticket A, C, A, and then the last ticket will be 5 A's and C, my C selections in the last leg. So that's that, and then that's an easy way to do that for a jackpot, for a small stake. Now, I do need to get at least 5 of my A's winning, and I need a C in my other one. So there are ways I could have, for instance, winning selections on in the first 3 races on A, and then a C here. If number 3, 4 or 5 wins leg 4 here in this example, then I must have the winner in the last 2 legs from these A selections. These C selections are dead at that point. So, and to exaggerate that example, if 3 or 4 won in the first race, all of these C tickets are then dead, because I must have A selections after that. And that's just the way it is with this. So with the 1C, we're saying 5 A's with 1C. There's much more information on this on the TIX website, so I don't want to labour it unduly here. It's probably more confusing me explaining it than it actually is. The management summary is that you will not have all of your selections in combinations, and the whole point of the ABCX ticket builder is that it takes the most likely combinations of your A's, B's and C's, and it makes tickets out of those, and you can stake them in these kind of multiplier formats, so you can have as much as 4 times on your A's, and B's and C's and so on. Okay, that's probably more confusing than helpful on ABCX. I have talked about it at great length before. I've written about it on the site. It's on both GG's and TIX, so there's plenty to go out there. I use ABCX definitely in this context when I want to limp in on a jackpot. I don't really have a strong opinion, but I feel like there'll be some value in the pool if it's if it goes largely with the top of the market, and I can just, throw in, afford to have five fancied horses and then one bit of a surprise result. Sometimes that pays considerably more than it should, given the relative simplicity of finding the 6 winners. Okay, that's ABCX, which I use regularly. And then the third and final variant, and I think it's become my favourite now, is Tix Plus. Tix Plus Pro, as you know by now, lives behind this drop down. And it's the same as Simple, but with 2 extra columns and 1 extra option for unnamed favourite. I use this because I, maybe unlike you, but I do have, and maybe like you, but I will have an opinion in most races about what I think the shape of the market is, whether I think Karma Police should be a 7-2 shot, or it should be a 5-2 or a 5-1 shot. And I will change this percentage accordingly based on my opinions. I know which horses I want to play. I know roughly in what proportions I want to play them. And I can control kind of exactly how my money goes through each leg in the place pot by doing this, or the jackpot. I just want to do something on here to answer a question that was asked about thresholds, and hopefully I'll be able to illustrate this. If I do this right, so what I've done there is I've made all of the I've chosen 2 horses in each leg, and I've made all of the percentages the same, such that there's 50% going through each horse, and that just makes life very easy. So if we go to the tickets tab, actually how am I going to do this? The threshold is 1.563 here. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means that we've got 64 lines here. We've basically got 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, which comes to 64. We've staked them all evenly, so there's 50% going through each of them. So if you multiply 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, you get 64. If you divide 100 by 64, you get 1.5625 or 1.563 here. So the threshold is the percentage chance on book of the last staked ticket. Now, that's a simple example that I've shown you with even money in all of them. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to add one more horse so it messes around with the percentages. And then you'll see that the threshold has now dropped to 0.046. And some of our tickets are below the threshold, which is to say that their cumulative odds of winning based on these book percentages here is below this 0.046. Now, what the software would do is, if there was sufficient budget against your unit stake, so in this case, if I had, let's say, 5,000, it just goes to my maximum, I get almost all of my bets on. Now, the reason it hasn't put them all on is because it wants to apportion stake accordingly. So it wants to have a sufficient differentiation in percentage terms between your most likely combination and your least likely combination. Now, I just want to change that in case of making a finger slip, which cost me a chunk of money. But so that's basically it. The threshold is the point at which tickets stop being staked, the point at which tickets go into the pruned pile based on their likelihood, which is based on the cumulative odds of the book percentages. You do not need to know this. You just need to know that the least likely combinations will not be put on if your stake and budget don't allow for it, and that the vast array of your most likely combinations will be placed. So that is threshold. I hope I've explained that better than I feel like I have, but I maybe haven't. If you're still not, if you still don't understand it, then drop me a note and I'll try again. Okay, that's enough on the three frameworks and when I use them. I use this one pretty much all the time now. Definitely using it for jackpots most of the time, except when I want to do that kind of favourite long shot ABCX approach that I showed you a minute ago. I use this on placepot a lot because it gives me that ability to put most of my stake through a single fancy, but spread out a little bit around that as well without unduly compromising, without burning too much of my budget on kind of long shots, hoping to hit a half home run. Okay, let's now finally look at a few hints and tips for playing placepots and jackpots and how you can kind of manage your position in the run. So the first hint or tip, actually there's two things that are kind of complementary to each other that I want to mention here. The first one is the notion of at least one brave race. Now, lots of people go 2x2x2 through the card, fine, but it's my opinion that somewhere you've got to go banker. Usually, you've got to have one race where you're prepared for the bet to go pop if your opinion is wrong. And I don't usually try to overcomplicate this. I usually try to take a favourite that I think looks pretty solid for the frame. And yesterday's example was in the first race, Arcadian Emperor, which was an odds-on favourite in a non-handicap race. It wasn't. I wasn't taking a massive risk, but by going single there, that gave me a bit more stake to play with through the rest of the card. And in tandem with that, as I mentioned in the video yesterday, I was able to lay this horse for a place to cover some of my stake. And in actual fact, I laid it for only for a liability of £20. So it cost me £3 to insure 2/3 of my bet. So my place pot was £30, and by laying Arcadian Emperor for a place at a cost of £3, so my total investment then is £33, not 30. But I've got if Arcadian Emperor is off the ticket, then I lose 10 quid rather than 30. And if he's on the ticket, then I lose my £3 lay on Betfair, but I have more. I've spread out. I bought myself the option to spread out more through the rest of the sequence. So definitely choose your brave race. And if you are playing Newbury today, an example might be this race. It might not be Miami Magic. There's another one around about even money here. Talk to the Man. Again, I haven't got any price movements because it's early in the morning when I'm recording this. They actually won't be that short to lay. What time are we? 3:35. Let's see. So you'd be laying for, if you're doing a place pot, you'd be laying for 2 places here. And you can see that because there's quite a big jump after the third horse, it's essentially a 3-horse race. You're probably going to be able to lay Talk to the Man about 1.25, I suppose, something like that. Certainly shorter than that, but probably longer than that. So you could, obviously the 3:35 is a 4th race, so you kind of know where you are by then with your bet. And I think that's really important as well to mention that if you are able to, if you're watching the races, you can actually track your progress. Now I would use the Tote website during racing, but obviously we haven't got any sort of interim progress here. So on this site, if I go back to yesterday, if I use Clonmel as an example, it will show you what was in the pool after each race. So for instance, after the first race, basically all of the money was still in the pool. And then after the first race, most of the money was still in the pool. And then after this race, things changed a lot because we had 3,000 on Fenway, 500 on House Safari. So that's 3,600. And what was it, Carseed? So I think it was about 4,000 after this race. Yeah. So, but you can, from this, and particularly on the Tote site where it works out what the running on dividend is, you can see if it's worthwhile and to what degree it's worthwhile, insuring your position, kind of managing, using some of your projected profit from a winning placepot or jackpot bet to insure against the alternative outcome, which is a loss from your placepot or jackpot bet. So that's something that I would do often, and particularly on the jackpot in the later legs, I'd certainly be looking to kind of cover my stakes at least, and then if the situation allows for it, then I would look to kind of green up across the two books. So I'd have obviously I've got horses running for me in the last leg of the jackpot. Let's say it was these 3 horses running for me, and these other horses in the win market are big prices. So I can work out what the jackpot's going to pay, the minimum it's going to pay. So I'd be looking at the shortest price horse, and then what I'm going to get back off that, and then I'm going to say, right, okay, so that's my minimum profit on the bet, and I'm going to have a little bit on these horses to either just get some of it back, because these are much less likely outcomes than these, right? If let's assume that these are the BSPs. This is a 0.5% chance. This is a 1% chance. This is a 2% chance. This is a 4% chance, roughly. So collectively, they're about 7.5%, 7%, right? There's 93% chance on the other ones. They are much more likely to get the job done. But 7% is not 0%. And if for a small stake I can at least cover my outlay, and maybe I'd back the 25 shot to win a small bit, and I'd just take it on the chin if one of these outsiders won. Maybe you'd look to green up across the board. Regardless, that is an approach that you can, and in my opinion, should take. As a very wise friend of mine once said, nobody ever went skint taking a profit. And I think he's right. Now, you can kind of cut too far into your profits by insuring too much, but there's a sweet spot that you'll find soon enough. So definitely look at alternative markets. Another approach along the same kind of insurance lines, if we look at this, let's say this was the last leg of the jackpot, and you had the even money in the 7-4, of the place pot, and you had the even money in the 7-4 covered, but you didn't have these big outsiders. There's 5 of them, and obviously you could bet them all, or you could do very small combination exactors or straight forecasts, probably in a small field, to again ensure the possibility that the first 2 in the betting were out of the frame. And the last thing that I want to talk about, just trying to sort the page out here, is horses that are over and under bet. And I've kind of referenced this through the week. And I used this race as an example yesterday. We had two horses that were both 4 or 5 to 1. Chemdog or Chemdog was one, and Finicky Filly was the other. Now, as it turned out, neither of them made the frame, but that's neither here nor there. The point is that I surmised that although they were the same odds with the bookmakers, that there would be more money on Chemdog than there was on Finicky Filly, just based on the recent form figures. And you can see that there was kind of 50% more on Chemdog than there was on Finicky Filly. So 6.5% on that would make 19.5%, and that one had 19.5%. So it might not seem like a big difference, but if you've got 2 or 3 or 4 of these through the sequence, the compound effect is significant. And as I've said, you have to win the place pot twice. You've got to get a horse in the frame, but you've got to get the right horse in the frame. So in this scenario, of the 2 9-2s, we definitely would have wanted Finicky Filly rather than Chemdog. We want the horses that are under bet by the general public, and they tend to be the ones with the P's and the F's and the U's and the 0s and the 9s and the 7s by their name, rather than the ones with the 1s and the 2s and the 3s. So yeah, always look hard at horses that are a single figure price with very unsexy recent form figures, and see if you can make a case for it. See if you can understand, reverse engineer the blue on the odds grid. See if you can figure out why it's been bet. Often you'll be able to do that. Certainly using the toolkit at Gigi's, you'll often be able to do that. Sometimes not, but it's always worth noting those moves. And yeah, that's where the value is. So that's a few hints and tips to hopefully help you squeeze a little bit more juice out of your placepot jackpot lemon. Tix will do that as well with the 5% minimum bonus on winning tickets, and obviously it's going to help you to stake more in a more appropriate way as well. So there's lots of reasons to use Tix. This is the end of the Tix Week series of videos. This one was slightly longer because I wanted to cover a fair amount of ground. I hope you found them interesting. I hope you learnt something new. There might be some further questions you have. If there are, then by all means send me an email and I'll be happy to help you there. But yeah, do have a crack at Tix, either with Plus Simple or ABCX or Plus Pro, whichever one suits you best. And see how you get on. It'll be Cheltenham just around the corner, and there'll be some massive placebot pools to go at. And the best way to give yourself the best chance is to use the best toolkit, and that's Tix. Okay, that was a party political broadcast on behalf of the Tix party. Matt Bisogno saying thank you very much for watching and listening, and goodbye for now.